welcome back. We are creating some textures for you today. So I'll get into it, but basically we want to get that real textured look that usually sits on the underside of a board or a coffee table or dining table when you're using a translucent pour. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. Okay guys, so this is what we're using. As you can see, pre-mixed my batch of Resi Cast. I'm using cast because I just want to do one pour in the layer of this board here. And I have already pre-tinted it with our avocado green translucent dye. So my resin will remain translucent see-through. I'm not putting any metallics in it because I really want to capture the texture on the underside. If I put metallics in it, you're not going to see that at all. It'll literally just cover it because metallics are opaque. So using translucent dyes is highly important if you want this texture. Now I have our BoPET plastic here. This is a little sample piece. This is what I aim to get. I want some crinkled up sort of pointy sort of textures, so I can sit that in the top side here after I've poured. Sit that in there, let it cure, and that'll take on that same shape as the BoPET. And BoPET releases from our resin very well, so when it's cured, I will be able to pull that back. But if you struggle getting this plastic, a great way to look around at your office supply stores for something like your overhead transparency film. So that can be used as well and releases very well from your resin. There are other types of plastics that work well as well. However, I do suggest just testing first. There's no reason why you can't do a little bit in a container, mix up a little batch of resin in a container and sit different types of plastic on top of it and see what releases after it's cured. That way you're not ruining a whole project and you'll know what will release well and get the textures that you're after. Okay, so we're going to aim to crinkle this up so we have that ready, so that way I can sit it straight in on top when I've poured in our Resi Cast into our channel here. Now remember, if you want any extra information about measuring and mixing resin, check out the link below. Same goes with framing up. We have our framing up video there that touches on similar methods to how I've framed up this round board here. So please check out that video in the link below. I think I'll aim to sort of fold in half to start with. Maybe concertina it a little bit, another fold, another quarter fold. Put a little bit of pressure on the fold so I do have some defined sort of seams there. And then potentially sort of just try to fold it into one another. Crinkle it up a little bit. Sorry in advance for the noise. And I really want to make sure, because it is a firmer plastic, that I sort of try to get those creases in it, keep it in it. So pressing down on those folds, and we'll see how it comes out. Like a spring. Okay. Now that we've got my piece back, it wasn't happy with that process. We'll unwrap it and see what textures we've got. Probably needed a bit crunchier than this, so I'm going to sort of, while it's open like this, squeeze it back up. All right, we've got a fair amount of texture in there, pretty happy with that. And the aim is to sort of sit it in there. I'll potentially even tape it down just so it doesn't move too much and doesn't float up too much. But I think we've got enough texture in there that we'll be able to transfer that texture across to the resin when it cures. So let's get pouring. Get some gloves on. Just quickly wipe out my board. After mucking around there, we got some little fibres in there. So always give your board a nice little clean out with isopropyl. So we're pouring in our avocado tinted Resi Cast. Okay, I want it to settle just a little bit so I can allow some of those bubbles to come to the top, and then we'll be basically putting our film over the top of it. So we'll be back in 5. Okay, so we waited about 5 minutes. I just wanted to allow some of those bubbles to come to the top so I didn't trap too many of them in there. Because when you're pouring with your resin, if you're pouring in the right time frame of your recommended pot life, with cast in particular, it's sort of 20 to 45 minutes. Ambient temperature plays a massive key in that. So on a really hot day, I want to work more towards the 20 minutes to get it into my job and pour it into my channel. But you also want to make sure you're pouring at the correct depth. If you go too far over the recommended depth for that particular resin type, it can cause the resin to cure quicker than it should, trap air bubbles, things like that. So I know I've managed that pretty well. I just wanted to give it a little bit of time with the bubbles that I'd mixed into it to release and come to the top. So now I'm happy. We've only got a few fine ones, so I'm hoping they'll still come out, and then we're going to sit this in here. So all right, so I've got a little bit of tape here ready if I need to tape it down. I'm going to basically just sit it in there and submerge it. Some of my resin's gonna push out, but that's okay. Because I didn't want to fill it too low, I wanted to make sure I got good contact. I've already dipped an end in. I've got some bubbles trapped in there. I want to try sort of push them out a little bit. There you go. Okay. With some trusty help from Raz, we were able to basically tape into position because I don't want it floating up. I don't want my plastic floating and moving away and not having proper contact. So at the moment, I've got pretty much most of the resin touching our plastic, and I've been relatively successful with pushing out air bubbles. And I've taped it just so it doesn't float away, but I've also just put some, these are literally just excess resin that were used in a time-lapse demonstration. So they're quite a chunky, almost like a paperweight, that I've just popped on top of here just to make sure it stays pushed down so I do have that contact with the resin. Then I'm going to basically let this cure, and we'll be able to literally just pull it all off, and we'll be able to see the texture on what will be the underside of the board. So at the moment we're looking at it and it looks like the top, but this will be the underside. When I demold it, I'll be able to give it a nice little sand, flood coat it, and then we'll see that texture come through on the underside. So we'll check back when it's done. Hi guys, it's been 24 hours. Because we used Resi Cast and I covered it up, it's actually cooked it off a little bit quicker than it should, because usually that's a 2 to 3 day cure time, but I was kind of expecting that. So I'm going to take the plastic off of it, demold it, and show you guys the results. ASMR, eat your heart out. All right, I'm going to demold it off the backing board now, and then we'll lift it up and flip it over and show you the effect from the top side. Okay, sweet. From the top side, even though I've only literally just demolded this and this all needs to be sanded back and a gloss flood coat applied, you can see how the texture comes through and shines through, because the texture is obviously aimed for the bottom side. So it gives it a really cool effect. I'm actually quite happy with that. Like the result is pretty cool. So I will be basically sanding back this piece to remove all of this excess resin. Same goes with this bottom side here, moving it off the timber portions, sanding it back down from 60 to 120 grit down to 240 grit, and applying a gloss flood coat on this. So that way that will come back where it's has a lot more clarity to it. You can see that when I just give it a mist with the isopropyl, you can see how much clarity comes back to it there. So I will be doing that, and you'll be able to see our end result, but it's a really cool, unique way to get a little bit of texture and have basically a slightly different effect with your resin pieces. So I highly recommend you guys try it out. Any questions about that, please make sure you leave them in the comments below. If you don't already, make sure you subscribe and like this video, and we'll see you next time.